Thanks for checking out this show review video. So this is for Creepshow Season 4, Episode 3. And again, I'm putting up all these episodes on the same day because they all drop on Shudder on Friday, October 13th. Perfect day for it. So once again, as has been the case with the other episodes of Creepshow Season 4, the screener I have received does not have the intro portion with the creep himself, so I cannot speak to that. I can only speak to the individual stories themselves. So let's go ahead and get into those stories. So the first one for episode 3 is called Parent Death Trap. This one's directed by P.J. Pesci, who directed some episodes of Supernatural. He directed From Dusk Till Dawn 3, The Hangman's Daughter, and, most importantly for me, some episodes of the Tremors TV show, which I think is totally underrated and a lot of fun. If you like Tremors at all, you gotta look for and watch those. I think I think I'd found them some time ago on YouTube, but I ended up purchasing them on DVD because they never got a Blu-ray release, but you can get them on DVD through Best Buy, I think still. All right, this one was written by Eric Sandoval and Michael Rousselet, who also wrote the Creepshow stories Dead and Breakfast and Queen Bee, if you remember those. This one starts with comic panels for some backstory. As we know, this is all about the fusing of cinema and comics, and they start this particular story with giving you a bunch of comic panels that give the backstory on what's going on. You know, some context for the story going forward. So I like that use of it. I know they pull it out here and there in stories, and in some stories they don't really do comic panels a whole lot, except just to lead into the story. So this one has that kind of beginning, here's some backstory. Immediately, the acting is pretty over the top. So if you don't like that style of acting, you might find a little bit of an issue with this one. I think personally it ended up fitting the tone of what they're going for. Because like I've said in some of the other reviews, that they go for this kind of like a little bit ridiculous, a little bit over the top, like light and fun feeling for almost all of these Creepshow episodes. So this one is kind of no different. This one really fits into what they typically go for tone-wise. So the acting is over the top, so you're kind of like, oh man, this is really over the top, but then it also kind of fits the feel of it. So, yeah. So I was fine with it. The story does seem very on the nose from the get-go. It seems very straightforward, like this is what it's going to be. You can pretty much tell exactly what's going to go on from time to time. I kind of knew what was coming in the end, but I don't necessarily think that everyone's going to get it, because when I watch a movie, I kind of watch it in a bit of a different way. When I'm doing it for review, I'm watching it in a very critical manner, as opposed to when I'm just watching something for pleasure. I'm a little more relaxed. I'm not paying as much attention to the small details and trying to pick things apart. So for most people just watching it to enjoy it, you might not see what's coming, but I did. So maybe there might be some people. But that said, I do think the story was interesting enough. I thought it was fun. I love that kind of tonal Creepshow, light and fun, funny type aspect to it. So it ended up working for me. The story seems... I literally just read that one of those days. Sorry. There is humor of absurdity in this one. So whereas a lot of these Creepshow ones have humor to them, this is kind of like an absurd humor. It goes along with that kind of over-the-top acting. It's kind of over-the-top humor. And it works. Again, it works with what they set up with the story. In the beginning, when you start to get a little bit of that, you're just trying to figure out, okay, what are they trying to go for here? Like, is this just ridiculous? Is this out of place? Or is this going to fit with the story? But it ends up fitting with the overall feel of it. So, yeah. By the way, this video might be a little bit more on the blue side because of this orange I'm wearing. So it looks like the lights are a lot more blue, but my apologies for that, but whatever. There are some fun visual effects in this one. Really cool looking visual effects. I don't know if it was actually CG or if it was done a different way. I think this is something that was kind of done in Ted Gagan's movie Brooklyn 45, which looked really, really cool. I know he had said it was practically done somehow, but so I don't know, maybe that was the same thing done here, but it's very cool looking. It's very impressive in my opinion. So good visual effects. After one big event in this, things get kind of fun. at first you're kind of, they kind of need to build this story, and you're kind of like, it's seeming maybe a little bit boring at the moment. But then there's a big something that happens, and then the fun really kind of ramps up, and you're like, oh, okay, now we can have a really good time with this one. And I think it's at that moment when that big event happens, when you understand, like, what the point of it is and what the tone of it is supposed to be, and that it is intentionally going for certain things that it at first seemed like maybe they could be a bit of a mistake. So yeah. Where the story ends up going is solid. It's nothing that blew me away, but it's nothing that disappointed me. So it was pretty decent. I did enjoy it. And I do think the whole story is kind of a metaphor for something many people can identify with. Obviously, I can't give away what that thing is because I'm not trying to spoil anything with this. I can't even like do synopses for these stories because of the embargo with it. But yeah, there's a metaphor that many people will be able to identify with. And I think it's not too subtextual. I think a lot of people will get it. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving Parent Death Trap a 3-star rating, which is solid. It means it's pretty good. So then the second story for this episode, To Grandmother's House We Go. Now this one is directed by Justin Dick, who directed a lot of TV Christmas movies, and the film Anything for Jackson, which was a good one and was on Shudder, and actually may still be on Shudder. I do recommend that. Julian Richings is phenomenal in that movie. Written by William Butler, who wrote a ton of stuff. I just picked a few out. Demonic Toys, Personal Demons, Ginger Dead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver, the Baby Oopsie films, and Demonic Toys Jack Attack, just to name a few. So obviously he's done a lot of writing for Full Moon. So yeah, if you like those movies, you might like some of this writing. The story moves quick in the beginning, but then feels like it kind of slows down a bit too much. It hit the ground running, and I was like, oh man, this is really good pacing. We're moving really fast. And then it gets to a certain point where it kind of covered a lot of the story that it doesn't want to deal with a lot of the time. It's just like, okay, gonna get you caught up here, 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 here. And then they get you to this point, and it seems like it slows down too much. It's okay to slow down, but it seems like it slows down too much on that one. And I was just like, it starts to be a little bit of a slog, but it does end up picking up after a little bit. So that is the good part. Good acting. I really did enjoy the acting in this one. And like I said in one of the other review videos for season 4, I feel like overall the acting has been better in this season than past seasons. So that's a thumbs up overall. You do get some good practical effects in this one. So anyone who's a big fan of practical effects, myself included, there are some nice practical effects, and you know that they will look good because Greg Nicotero is involved, and he's not going to allow any bad practical effects. At least I don't think he really has. I can't think of any instances where he's allowed that to happen, so I'm just saying. There's a pretty obvious source from which this story is derived. It's something that's been used a decent amount, but it uses it in an interesting enough way. It's not like 100% unique, but it kind of does a little bit of its own thing. So I think a lot of people will appreciate it. It's very easy to understand what that source material is. Obviously, I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to ruin anything, but you'll figure it out pretty early what the source material is. There's some visual cues before the bigger reveal of what's really going on. But yeah, I think people will enjoy it for the most part, in my opinion. The story does end up paying off pretty well, I do think. The kind of very end of it, you're like, okay, all right, I'm down with where we took this thing, because with a lot of these stories, you get stinkers and you get winners, and a lot of the times, like, when you're going through, you're just going through this mental gymnastics of like, okay, I see this good aspect of it and this bad aspect of it. Where are we going to land in the end? And I think this is one of the ones that lands pretty solid in the very ending. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't the greatest, but decent. So out of 5 stars, half stars in play, I'm giving it a 3-star rating. So 2 3 stars for the stories for this episode. So solid enough, in my opinion. And it's just short, fun horror stuff. So yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. If you want to comment on this episode, go ahead and put it in the comments. Do you differ with my opinion? Always looking for differing opinions and why, you know, give me like a sentence or two. So go ahead and put it in the comments. Or if you just want to talk about horror in general, we can do that. Do me a favor, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. Also, hit the notification bell button, because then you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 a week at this point. Actually, in October when this is releasing, it's like 4, maybe 5 a week. But anyway, thank you so much for checking this out, and until next time, keep it brutal.